Hi everyone, it's Carol from the Barrie Public Library. Welcome back to my sewing room. Oven mitt. I thought today it would be a good idea to show everyone how to do these. They're quick, they're easy. For these, you're going to need 4 pieces of fabric that are 9 inches wide by 14 inches long. And that is going to be for your exterior, the front and back for the right mitt and the front and back for the left. You're also going to need 4 pieces of lining fabric that are cut the same size, 9 by 14. You're going to cut 2 pieces of fabric for your tabs that are 4 inches long by 2 inches wide. If you're able to, get some Insul-Bright. It's what I've used. It deflects the heat away from the mitt, and Insul-Bright can be found at any of the sewing stores or quilting stores or fabric shops in the area. And I ran out, so I have got Insul-Bright that I put on the inside on the backs of these, and then for the front side I've just used 2 pieces of cotton batting. I don't suggest using polyester at all or anything that's a polyester blend, because polyester can burn. So everything in this should be 100% cotton. If you're using just batting and you don't have the Insul-Bright, you're going to need 2 layers for every side. So 2 layers for the front and 2 layers for the back. So I'm just tracing around the last of my template here. I'm just using a pen on the fabric, on the wrong side of the fabric, so you can see the pattern traced there. And I've got the 2 pieces right sides together. I've pinned the Insul-Bright onto the back of the oven mitt, and then for the left side and the right side, and I've pinned my double layer of cotton batting onto the front side of the front and back. I've also marked on the back just a little FR for front right, FL for front left, BL for back left. If you've watched my videos for the Easy Backpack and the Christmas stocking, we're going to use the same method with these oven mitts. So it makes it a little bit easier because you don't have to worry about binding them. They're all going to be completely contained. And also, if you've watched my other videos, you know that I like to use a little square of fabric as a leader when I'm sewing little wee strips of fabric like these for the tabs. So again, for the tabs, we took our 2 by 4 inch excuse me, piece of fabric, folded it in half, pressed it, and then we took the outside edges and folded them into the center crease. And now we're going to fold it in half again, so we have a 1/2 inch wide strip, what started out as 2 inches just because of the folding. So that will keep all of the raw edges tucked inside. So we'll just use our little leader strip here and sew onto it, and then feed our little strip in behind. And we're going to sew this at about 1/8 of an inch from the raw edge. There's our 2 little tabs. Okay, it's finishing up quilting. I've used my walking foot to do it, and if you don't have a walking foot on your machine, you can use any kind of foot that will allow you to just do a straight stitch. So what I've done, you can see it here, with this pattern, because there's a plaid, I was able to just stitch along the dark lines. You just want to do some stitching that's going to attach and hold your exterior fabric, your front and back exterior fabric, to your batting and to the Insulbright. I start and stop my seams. I do a little bit of stitching forward and back just to reinforce the very start of the seam and at the very end of the seam. Okay, so we've finished doing all of the quilting on all of our exterior pieces. Now we're going to do the lining, and we're going to stitch along. We're going to leave the top unstitched. We're going to stitch along one side around the thumb, around the bottom where your fingers go. Coming up this other side, we're going to leave about a 4-inch hand's width opening. We're sewing with about a 1/4 inch seam. And when we get to the point where we're leaving the opening, we're also going to forward and back as well. So as we're sewing, as we come down to the notch where the thumb and the fingers meet on the oven mitt, we're going to square off our seam there. It just makes it easier when we go back in afterwards and we're clipping to help our seams lay flat if it's squared off. So here we are, we're coming down right to this notch area here, and we're doing our 1/4 inch seam, and then I will sew it down, square it off, and show you that. There we go. So I sewed down to here, and then I just sewed straight across to square it off, and now I'm sewing the seam back up the other way. We're coming up the far side. I'm going to do a forward and back just to lock in, raise my needle, slide the project forward about a hand's width, 4 inches or so, drop my needle down again because this is the space that we're going to be turning things through. So I've just reinforced my seam right here. I've left that space. Now I've dropped my needle down again. I'm going to do a forward and back to reinforce. Forward and back. Okay. So we're done with the lining. And now we're going to sew our fronts and our backs for our left and our right mitt together. And again, the same as we did with the lining, we are going to square off our seam right in the little notch where the thumb joins with the rest of the hand. Okay, so let's get these pinned together. So again, it's going to be with a 1/4 inch seam. Make sure you don't sew over any of your pins. Now, both mitts are done. What we're going to do is we're going to take our scissors and we're just going to put notches in on the curves. And I've cut notches around all the curves. So we've cut all the notches. We're going to leave the lining inside out, and we're going to take our exterior and we are going to turn it right side out. Push everything out. Got to get the thumb. There we go. Now you can use a chopstick or the end of a pencil, something to make sure that your seams are all turned. I have a little turner tool here, so just gonna press out on the seams. Okay, so now that we've got our glove turned right side out, we're going to put it on our non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed. I'm going to put it on my left hand. And we are going to slide our glove inside of our lining. Remember, our lining is still turned wrong side out. The right sides are still together and we haven't flipped it. So we're going to put our glove right up inside of the lining. Just like that. Now we're going to pin our top edges together. So where the seams are, it's best if you have the seams going in opposite directions. So my exterior, my seam is going to the left, and my lining, my seam, is going to the right. You can use pins or clips, whatever you have, and we're just going to put those together. Now, remember the little tabs that we made? We're going to take that, we're going to fold it in half. So there's our little tab. The back side of the oven mitt and our lining right near where we've put that little pin or clip for the corner. We're going to just tuck the tab in with the loop facing towards the hand. Your raw edges are going to be at the top where we're going to close it. So I'm just going to put a clip there. And then I'm going to put a few clips just around. To stitch it from the inside edge. So rather than trying to stitch on the outside, I'm just going to lay this down on the bed of my machine, and I'm going to start stitching, and I'm just going to stitch around. When I get to the side seams where they're nested together, I'm going to stitch over and back a little bit just to reinforce it. And where we've got our hanging tab as well, I'm going to stitch over and back on that a couple of times right there, again, just to reinforce it. Okay, I'm just coming up to the end of stitching the lining to the exterior of our oven mitt. A couple of forwards and backs to lock it in place. Where we had left our lining unsewn, we are going to turn the whole oven mitt through that space. So you can see there's our little tab. Okay, so we have our oven mitt. Make sure that's all pushed out all the way around. Our lining is attached, and where this little space is, if we just give this lining a sharp little tug, that will naturally turn the seam in a little bit where it's open, and we can just stitch that shut. Okay, so that's stitched up. We'll just trim our threads. I'm just going to push all this back out. I'm pushing my thumb into my thumb, so the lining into the thumb, making sure that everything is pushed out all the way around. There's our tab. Now we have one last thing to do, and that is just to sew down around the edge here, the top edge, and that's just going to sew in and keep in place our lining. A quick go around on the machine, and then we're all done. Thank you for joining me today. Seam. Now where you've got all the seams coming together, that's a lot of bulk. So you just want to slow down your stitching, take it nice and slow, and your machine should not have any problems. Just slow it down when you're going over that extra bulk. And we are done. There we go. So, nice pair of oven mitts that you can use doing any cooking of any kind, and you need to reach into that warm oven. Quick, easy. Check out Barrie Public Library for our digital resources, and check out Creative Bug because there's all kinds of projects on there that you can do. And so for Carol and the Barrie Public Library, thank you for joining me today. Take care. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.